Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rising Stories Podcast. I'm Corrine Sandifer, your host. Usually, I interview a business owner or an author, and we chat about what it takes to build their business or how they became published authors. But this week, we are going to talk about Mother's Day. It's going to be a special show. I have a special guest later on. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about Mother's Day gifts, what we do during the day, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. Last year, I went on a girls' trip to the beach, just 4 moms. We had a great time, and it was awesome because it was what I wanted to do, and I was very glad that my family was okay with it to be gone for Mother's Day because I enjoyed myself. Read a book, laid on the beach, toes in the sand, drink in my hand. It was blissful. But this year I'll do the typical, just staying at home, doing the whole Sunday, Mother's Day fun with presents and them taking me out to my favorite restaurant, which is always fun too. And as far as gifts go, sometimes they're not sure what to get me. And that's okay. We usually just say, well, let's just talk about it on Mother's Day. I might say, I think one year I said, I really want some planters right in front of either side of my door, my front door. So we went and picked those out. That was fun. We did it as a family. Another time we'll just go to the mall, which we don't normally do because none of us really like the mall. So we're not big shoppers, but we might go and I might pick something out that I love. So that's kind of how we do gifts, and I like it. And a lot of times if they know that I want something or have been hinting around, then they'll just go ahead and pick that up. Now for my mom, I usually get her something and mail it to her since she doesn't live near here. And I usually include a really nice card. This year I have a very special card that a friend of mine made, one of our listeners, and it is an amazing card. She took a picture and put it all together, and it's a homemade card, and I think she's going to love it. So I hope that your Mother's Day this year is filled with lots of love and laughter, and that you're spending it with the people that you love, or you're spending it exactly the way you want to, because it's your day as a mom, and that's what you deserve. So go out and enjoy. My guest today is Anna LeBaron. She was actually on Rising Stories episode 28, and I asked her back for a special Mother's Day show today. I wanted her to talk about her upbringing and her relationship with her mother. Sometimes our relationships with our moms are difficult and less than ideal. Anna shares her story of how redemption and restoration took place in her life. This show touches on hope for estranged mother-daughter relationships and emotional health. Here is my conversation with author of The Polygamist Daughter, Anna LeBaron. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, Corrine.
Hey, I'm so glad you came on today to talk about Mother's Day. So excited.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your show again.
I know. You were on episode 28, and I was super excited to have you then. And now since then, your book is launched, and you are currently on a book tour.
Yes.
How exciting is that?
It's very exciting. It's kind of a rogue book tour where we're making it up as we go and just crisscrossing the country and meeting people and doing some fun stuff.
And so tell me, for those authors that are out there talking, maybe wanting to do a going rogue and doing like a fun tour of, book tour, how did you put all this together?
Well, I found out that Barnes & Noble has certain stores that will be carrying my book, and kind of mapped out where those stores were, and then overlaid that with the places where I knew I had people that could help put me up for the night. Yeah. So that I wouldn't have hotel expenses and stuff for that part of it, to kind of keep this as cost effective as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is really good for, anybody who wants to do something like that to just plan it out. So how long did it take you to plan this?
Months.
Months.
We've been thinking about it for months, and then like really planning it for, for a long time, and overlaying those things and talking to people and confirming with people that they could put us up for the night and feed us, because eating out is expensive too. So
That's true. Yeah. And when you're trying to hit a bunch of cities, if you can just defray the cost like that and just
right.
stay with friends or, having a place to even just to eat and go from place to place, and having friends in a city where they can invite other friends and say, hey, I'm going to a book signing. Why don't you come with me?
Yes.
And maybe even promote it on Facebook or something. So that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the major expenses are the gas for the car and the coffee for the humans.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta have the coffee to make that trek across the country. Definitely.
one little girl that I met on the road, she said, Starbucks is like the gas station for the humans.
It is. It really is. I don't drink coffee myself, but my husband does. So we know where all the Starbucks are along, when we go on the same vacation every year. So we know where they are.
Yeah.
And where to stop. Yeah, good. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I wanted to have you on because of the unconventional, unusual circumstances surrounding you as a mom, but also you as a daughter of someone who was in and out of your life as a mom,
right,
for years. So tell us a little bit about your story and your background, because you wrote the book, The Polygamist Daughter, and it just released, and they can get it at Barnes & Noble and online, Amazon, and on your website, AnnaLeBaron.com.
Yeah. So I was born into and raised in a polygamist cult, and eventually escaped at age 13, which separated me from my mom permanently. But even when I was still there in, my first 13 years of life, she was in and out because of her responsibilities within the cult. She couldn't always be there physically to take care of us. So I was a little bit mothered by my sisters. So I have a lot of maternal feelings towards my older sisters, especially my sister Ramona, who was the oldest daughter when I came along. So I was basically raised on her hip.
Yeah. So she was for all intents and purposes, she was your mom in the nurturing part of it all.
Right.
At an early age.
Yeah. And I was very attached to my own mother. So even when she would be gone, when she would come back, it was always sweet. And I always missed her and wanted her back. And so, I was attached to my mom, but it was a thing where, like, my mother had 12 children. So the older siblings were usually a part of caring for the younger ones. That's just how it works in big families, not just the polygamist ones,
True. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, when people here have umpteen kids, 6, 7 kids, and the older ones it's just a given that they're taking care of the younger ones.
So that was part of my growing up years, being tended and watched for and cared for by my older siblings. But I was very attached to my mom. So that meant when I did separate from her, there was some grief attached to that because of that separation, even though it was needed.
Because you were separated by miles. She was in the States and you were in Mexico.
That was when I was 9 and 10 years old.
Okay, so it was just 2 years.
That was a big, long separation before I ran away.
Oh, gotcha.
So that big, long, extended separation did a lot of damage to my heart when I was separated from her involuntarily. That was 9 and 10 years old. At 13, I ran away from home and separated myself voluntarily from her.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so, so it's very conflicted, very, mm, there's a lot of difficult feelings.
And were you like at 13, were you just thinking, I mean, were you no longer attached? You said you were close to your mom in the early years, but at some point, I guess, did you sort of realize, hey, this isn't a healthy or situation. You're not mothering me the way I need to be mothered, or was it just uh, a, a realization you just needed to get away, help?
Yeah, I go into a lot of the motivations for why I ran away in the book, which I don't think we have time for here.
No, yeah, yeah,
So, there were just some circumstances that had happened, um, that that were the catalyst for
yeah.
the choice that I made to run away from home. And it was a difficult choice, and one that left me feeling very vulnerable in the world, of course. I
Mm-hmm.
did have an older sister that was married and had 5 kids at the time. She eventually had 6, but she took me in and finished raising me. So again, an older half sister of mine,
Mm-hmm.
that was very, you know, came alongside and kind of filled in that position as the mother
Yeah.
figure in my life. And so my experience with being mothered, not just by my own mother, but by others that came alongside,
Mm-hmm.
and also my experience as a mother, because I have 5 children and they're all grown now. My youngest is 18. So, so I have a lot of the whole gamut of emotions attached with the word mom or mother,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I bet. Because I mean, for you, it means, you probably have so many people that are in your, spectrum of like these are the moms in my life. I mean, your
Yes.
sisters and
Hmm.
your own mom, and maybe even someone who you might have lived with, who took you in, or just anybody who nurtures. And I mean, we all do. We all have that too.
Hmm.
But because your mom your situation was different, you had longer periods of being mothered by other women that were not your
Yes.
biological mom. So,
Yes.
and you yourself, I felt like in the book, also were very much of a mother figure for a lot of the kids. Like you were saying, the older kids took care of the younger kids. So you took
Hmm.
care of, it was your job to take care of some of the younger kids in your family, and
Yes.
nieces and nephews, or
Hmm.
what have you, or little brothers and sisters. And so
Yeah.
you knew what mothering was like at an early age.
Yeah. We part of our job, even when I was a young girl, 9 and 10 years old, was we would be assigned to one of the moms that had a nursing baby. So the little girls would be assigned to the mom, and we would get to play like we were the mom.
Mm-hmm.
When the mom was working, we would hold the baby and take care of the baby and keep the baby from crying. And then when the baby needed to nurse, we would go find the mama.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be 3 or 4 or 5 little girls at a time, all of us playing house,
And
you know,
how old were y'all?
9, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would kind of huddle together, and we had
Mm-hmm.
each had our own little baby, and we were changing diapers and doing all the stuff that a little infant would need,
Mm-hmm.
except the breastfeeding part. When the baby was hungry and we knew it
Yeah.
had been a certain amount of time, we would go and find the mom, and the mom would nurse the baby and hand
Mm-hmm.
him back to us.
Yeah. That reminds me when my husband used to be in the music industry and we were on tour, and I asked one of my friends who had an older child, and I think she was either 9 or 10, but I had seen her with her siblings, babies, doing exactly that, taking care of her brothers and sisters as infants. while the mom did what she needed to do. And so I asked her, I said, do you mind if she comes with me for a couple of dates so I can get my job done? So I just had my daughter. And so I brought this little 9-year-old, and of course, she was well equipped to take care of, a little
Mm-hmm.
baby. I know people probably looked at me and maybe gasped that I was allowing this 9-year-old to carry my infant daughter around, but she
Mm-hmm.
was very well aware of how to take care of a baby at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And, she was strolling her along while I did what I needed to do with product sales and things that we were doing on the road. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, you do what you can, right? You do what
Right.
you need to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, as a mom yourself, like what have you what aspect of mothering do you find that energizes you?
Oh, just in the season that I'm in right now with all of my children ages 18 and over,
Mm-hmm.
that is such a lovely time.
That is a great time.
When your children call you and ask you for advice,
Mm-hmm.
or they send a text and say, "Hey, are you home? I'd like to come by and do my laundry."
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then that's an opportunity to sit and visit and, have a little snack or something with them and come alongside of them. And so those are just it's such a fun time, but it wasn't always that way when my kids, because the kids ages are 18 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a big age range right there. They're all
That's
tight.
yeah.
So when they were smaller, I was in a very different season where every day was a challenge just to meet all their various needs at, 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 and 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't always this sweet and this special, even though, having little kids running around is sweet and special. It's a really hard time. And so if any moms are out there listening to this and they're in that season where they have little ones with a myriad of needs and endless myriad of needs,
Mm-hmm.
um, just know that this season will end at one point, and you will have that breather where it feels like, okay, I think I can do this. Because even though I'm not a parent of minor children anymore, I'm still a parent. I still
Yeah.
mother my children.
Yes. I don't think it ever stops. I mean, I think that it's either, yeah, our phones are blowing up and we're getting texts and calls and
Mm-hmm.
just drop-ins where they can, where we have snippets of time where they're looking
Yeah.
to us, and they are looking to us,
Right.
whether or not sometimes they don't even voice it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For adult
Right.
children, they don't even voice it, but they kind of do come and look to us to hear what we have to say about whatever it is that
Mm-hmm.
they're doing, either for approval or
Right.
advice. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, sometimes it's unspoken, but they just want to be near us and kind of feel that connection still.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I wanted to interject here is that children lost their father last year. He and I weren't married anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but they lost their father last year. And so what you asked, what energizes me. So watching my 5 children, go through the process of losing their father and then rally around each other
Yes.
and come alongside of each other and walk with one another through that has just been such a balm for my heart, knowing that, whereas it used before that, they kind of tolerated each other, and, there was a little bit of, okay, you're a little bit much for me, because they're all making their own way. And so watching them go through that and then come out closer together as siblings, there's nothing more that meant more to my mama's heart than seeing that happen
Yeah. Well, you
over the
want them,
past.
yeah, you want them to be close because they're going to be all they have. I mean, we as parents, like we said, their dad passed away. We move on, we pass away, and you want to know that they're going to be there for each other, and you
Right.
saw that, and that's
Hmm.
yeah, that's great. Yeah. And two, just things like that just bring you closer. Of course, you know all about that just
Hmm.
with some of the things that you'd had to endure at such a young age. It probably brought you closer to your siblings, maybe some more than others, but just because of the situations that you were facing,
Right.
you bonded tighter than
Oh, yeah.
maybe most siblings would have.
Right.
Um, not given the same circumstances, just yeah, it was unusual, but did you end up reconciling with your mom after you ran away and after you grew up? How did that
Yeah.
look?
Yes. We, um, the group that I was a part of kind of disbanded, and I say burned itself out just because it was so horrific.
Mm-hmm.
It burned itself out. Nobody wanted to be a part of it once, things got went really sideways. And so it's now abandoned. It's no longer in existence. However, because of the way my mom believes, she did eventually find another community of polygamists to join. And so she is still a part of a polygamist community. However, this community that she's a part of, they do allow contact with outsiders,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm definitely an outsider.
Okay.
And so, but, they're a little bit more open-minded about, their practices and the way they walk out their faith. And so I'm allowed to have contact with her, and I've been to visit her. And so we've cobbled together, the best kind of relationship we can have. We have to agree to disagree about some topics, namely religion.
I bet. Yeah.
And, so she's really, she has a deeply rooted belief system in the practice of polygamy. And so, she would love nothing more than for me to uproot and go and join that community and be part of a polygamist marriage,
Mm-hmm. I bet.
which it's not going to happen.
No.
And so, there's that tension in the relationship when we talk, when I call, when I visit. But when I started writing the book, my
Yeah.
mom was naturally a little bit nervous about what I was going to say.
I guess she was wondering what you were going to say about her,
Right.
right?
And
And
so I assured her during the writing process that my intent in writing was never to dishonor her.
mm-hmm.
I mean, the Bible is very clear about honoring your father and your mother. And there's a way to show honor even when there's disagreement, even when there's difficult things in the past. And I think my mom and I have some of the most difficult things in our past that we're having to kind of build a bridge to one another, even though we have a lot of stuff that could separate us or easily separate us. So, the me writing, when I told her that my purpose was not to dishonor her, um, she was naturally curious about what the book was going to say.
Mm-hmm. And did
So,
she have anything like, oh, you should not put this in there, or you should change
no,
this around?
she didn't do that until after after we had completed the manuscript. There were some things in the manuscript that she would have preferred that I change, except that I couldn't. There were two sentences specifically that she was really disturbed about and really um, it hurt her heart that I included 2 sentences specifically in the book. But in order for me to change them, it would have me not being
Truthful.
honest with my readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
What pages are those on?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, I was hoping you'd go there. I'm like, whatever she's going to tell us. Okay, so we'll have to get the book. I'll have to put in a good guess later.
Yeah, you can make a good guess, but it was never my purpose to dishonor her.
Right.
It was only just to tell my story from my perspective, and I was really, really careful about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think you did an excellent job of, even talking about your father. There was so much there. And even talking about him, you were very just matter-of-factly, this is the way it was. And these are the facts.
My family is very Googleable. So I didn't really need to go into a lot of the details, just because there's so many books that have already been written about my family. I mean, there's even a made-for-TV movie about my family.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the name of that movie?
It's called Prophet of Evil.
Oh, wow.
And it's on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free.
Okay.
It used to be on Netflix, but it's not there anymore. But it's there on it. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free. But you can order the movie on Amazon if you just want to
own it.
I mean, it was from 1993, and it was a made-for-TV movie. So you can imagine the quality and the drama part of it was just. You don't need to dramatize my family at all,
because it's already there.
There's plenty of drama there,
yeah.
And so there were aspects of it that were like a little bit over the top, but not a lot.
Really? So some of it, most of it is pretty true to life there.
Very much true to life.
Yeah. You're kind of like, oh, you can't make this stuff up. This is the way it is.
Yeah, you can't make it up. It was horrific in every which way you can imagine.
Wow.
So it was, growing up that way, growing up with my father and my mother. I didn't know my father very well. I had a better relationship with my mom than my dad. So it made life challenging and difficult. And then it made writing about it challenging and difficult as well. Mm-hmm. But to kind of finish what we were talking about, when I finished the manuscript, I flew to where my mom lived and spent a week with her. And we read the manuscript. I read the manuscript out loud to her. She's 86 now. When that happened, she was 85, but she just had her 86th birthday. So I sat with her for a week and read through it. We cried because she spent a lot of time away from me. So she didn't know all the stories that were included in the book.
Wow. So she didn't know some of that stuff that had happened to you.
Yeah. So we sat and cried, and, my intention was to, because of the difficult things that I was talking about in the book, I didn't want her to get the book in the mail when it gets published and sit there by herself and read about these really difficult things. Mm-hmm. My intent all along was to be beside her in the flesh, in person, to comfort her heart with my very presence.
Yeah. That was very wise.
That I was a grown, matured adult, that I had, overcome, and, lots of counseling and lots of healing had taken place. And so I was able to be there with her in that moment and walk that path with her while she read and learned these things about myself. Mm-hmm. And I will say that for a lot of people, there are very difficult things that so many people have endured and have experienced that usually the parent doesn't know anything about.
So you're
Because
saying,
as children, we're taught not taught. Everybody wants their kids to talk to them. But
right.
as a society, children learn early, don't tell the adults about what's happening. Because whatever, even especially the more horrific abuses that some kids can experience, sometimes, it's they're told don't tell anyone. And so they don't. So growing up, my mom didn't know things about me, as I'm sure many of your listeners have experienced things that they've never told their mom or never told anyone. And so that's one of the things. I didn't want my mom to sit there and learn these things that I'd never told her.
Alone and on her own. Without you being there.
Right.
That was very wise to be there, to have your presence there and you reading them and just kind of letting her know how things were and maybe even answering questions that she might have had more and more
Right.
questions as she was reading if she
Right.
was alone. And that's really good that you did that. So, and
So
you wrote
my
some things in the epilogue about it too.
Yeah, I mean, just how conflicted emotionally I, because she still believes in these practices, in the practice specifically of polygamy, that was so devastating to my life and to the lives of her children, every one of them. It makes for a tenuous relationship at best.
Yeah.
So, I love my mom. I care about her. All her children love her and care about her. But it makes being in a relationship with her more challenging and more difficult because she wants us to believe the same things that she does, and none of us do anymore.
Yeah.
And so she's left heartbroken that none of her children have followed in her footsteps. And so, it's just navigating that relationship with her when there's so much pain and there have been so many wounds left on our hearts and our souls by her choices. And the fact that she keeps choosing that, even though it's caused so much damage.
That's
And
painful. Yeah.
so it's painful. And so one of the reasons why I was so eager to have this conversation with you is because I know that even though the circumstances might be different, so many women have relationships, or women and men have relationships with parents that have caused damage and have caused harm. And so how do you navigate Mother's Day when you have when you have so many conflicting emotions associated with your mom, the holiday, and the
relationship breakdown.
Yes. And so I wanted to just kind of give some hope or maybe even some comfort to people who are experiencing that, because mainly to say, one, you're not alone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have conflicting emotions about the holiday and their mother, and even, Father's Day, same thing, conflicting emotions about the father in their life,
Right.
or, the lack thereof of fathering or whatever. Same for mothering.
So what do you do to celebrate your mother on Mother's Day? How does that look?
My mother likes phone calls.
Okay.
So, so the phone call, I usually try to call her on Saturday before the holiday because she has a lot of children.
Okay. So just so that I know what you're doing. So that you're special, you call her when she has a lot of time.
I try to call her on Saturday, and if I don't, I'll call her on Sunday. But, she does have her faith practices, and they have very long services. And so, getting her on actual Mother's Day Sunday is a little bit tricky sometimes. And so phone calls to my mom are special. I do visit my mom just sporadically. And, it's not a consistent every whatever I go visit her, just visiting her. There's a way to honor a parent in ways that are meaningful to them or to you that don't involve condoning or even agreeing with them. And so I hold a tender spot in my heart for my mother in spite of everything.
And I think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think that you have to be a strong person to be able to know that that she's there and you are here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of us that might have moms that are difficult, or that the situation is estranged, or there's tension there, may take that upon themselves, onto themselves, rather than, it seems to me that you're kind of like, that's her and this is me when you approach her.
Right.
Whereas some of us kind of, it's hard because some of us want to get entangled. We get entangled more so with that, dysfunctional part that we don't like, but yet we enter in and get entangled with that. And it's, you seem to have it together where you're like, okay, that's her situation. This is my situation. This is who I am.
Right. There's a really great book by Dr. Henry Cloud called Boundaries.
Yeah.
that really helped me to navigate and differentiate where she stops and where I start.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then to beyond that, there's another book called Keep Your Love On that teaches you how to have a boundary, because sometimes when people are enforcing boundaries, it doesn't feel very loving.
Right.
And so making boundaries can sometimes create rifts in between people. And so that boundaries book, coupled with the Keep Your Love On book, helped quite a bit for me, how to have the loving feelings that are natural and normal and maintain really healthy boundaries for your own well-being, for your own mental health and emotional health and spiritual health.
Yeah.
So those are two books that I highly recommend when you have relationships that might have conflict in them.
Right. And how do you love to be celebrated as a mom?
This is what I tell my kids. They've probably heard it 100 times. Anytime there's an opportunity for a gift giving, like, you know how people talk about their love language? Gifts is not my love language.
Okay.
So giving gifts is hard for me, and receiving them is, who doesn't want a present? Everybody wants presents. It's fun. But when it's time for any kind of holiday, Mother's Day, my birthday, Christmas, any time like that, my kids will say, what do you want? And then they stopped asking me because they already know what I'm going to say. And here's my answer. Get out a piece of paper and a pen and write down all the things that I've done right.
Oh, that's great. What a great idea.
Because as a mom, I know I have messed up. I know that I've done things the wrong way and not met their needs in certain ways. And I think that's a general rule overall. All the moms know all the ways in which they've failed their children to one degree or another. And so, and it's hard, it's easy as a mom to kind of kick yourself internally, like, oh, I should have done better.
Yeah. Even if we're being great moms, we still focus on the negative, because that's just, because we want to be, better, perfect. I don't know, but that's a great idea.
And so my kids do give me gifts. They're fun and they're sweet, and they all do their own little fun way. They honor me in their ways. But over the years, I have gotten some incredible letters,
That's
written
really cool.
stuff from them, from each of them at different times that
Mm-hmm.
have warmed my heart, and I treasure those more than
Yeah,
any gift they could ever buy or with money.
absolutely. Yeah, those are priceless.
Yes. So
Hmm.
that's always my answer when my kids ask me what I want, and they already know. So hopefully this Mother's Day I'll get 5 of them, of those beautiful letters from
Mm-hmm.
them. I don't always get what I want, but you know, it's always there as an option for them if
Yeah.
they're struggling or don't have money for a present or whatever.
Yeah. I would take that over anything, really.
Yeah, I think most moms would.
Yeah.
So
Little do
that's
they
why,
know, but that's the hardest, I get. I mean, because you're giving of yourself,
right.
back to someone when you're writing,
Hmm.
what you love about them, what they've done
So
right. It takes some time, but yeah, but it's free.
so
Do it.
yeah. So in the love languages thing, I really think that words of affirmation is my strongest love language,
Hmm.
just based on that
Yeah, and
alone.
it's not for anyone who knows you, and it's not a secret that is how you love people too.
Yeah.
You lavish them with praises and words of affirmation as well. So what are you loving these days, Anna? Anything fun except for your aside from your Starbucks?
Yes. So here's something that I'm loving, and it ties into this whole theme of mothering. Um, Today I'm in California, um, and yesterday I was out at a Barnes and Noble in the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
There's a signed copy of my book at that Barnes and Noble if anybody's interested. Or um, I was there at the shopping center, and they had a display with a little kiosk for Snapchat um, spectacles.
What is
And
that?
I know it's the latest and greatest thing from Snapchat. It's a pair of sunglasses that allow you to push a little button on the edge and the side, and it videos what you're looking at. And
Oh,
automatically using Bluetooth technology sends it to your Snapchat,
wow. So you don't have to
where
like
you can add
hold
it to
up
your Snap
your phone. You can
camera,
just
phone.
click and they're seeing what you're seeing.
Yes. So, I
I
mean,
love that.
it's not automatic. It uploads and then you have to share it. So you can
Yeah.
decide if you're going to share that to your Snapchat story or whatever. But what I love about it is whatever that video is can also be downloaded to your phone and uploaded to other social media or
That's great.
anywhere you want. So I was there yesterday, and 4 of my 5 kids are very prolific Snapchatters,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still trying to navigate my way.
I
So
go in and out. I love all the filters, but it's just another thing to do. So I
it's
go in and
another
out.
thing to keep up with.
Exactly.
So I go in and out too, but while I was there yesterday, I thought, okay, this is going to be awesome for when I'm doing little meet and greets and stuff. I can put the little sunglasses on, and then record and be able to show my audience and,
Yeah.
show different things that I'm seeing on this tour. Like, because we're seeing amazing things. We went to the Grand Canyon, and we're going to go to Niagara Falls when we get to, New York. So
Wow.
there's a lot of things that we're going to see that I'll be able to share with my readers using these little Snapchat spectacles.
That's a great thing. Yeah. And so what's the price of those? Are they
Oh my
in
gosh, it was over $100 a
okay.
pair.
Okay.
But I'm using those. I'm calling it a marketing expense. So I
Oh,
used my business
absolutely.
account to purchase them.
Yeah.
Just because I'm going to use them while I'm on my book tour,
Yeah.
um,
I
to
can't
connect with
wait.
my
I'm gonna
readers.
just make sure I'm following you on Snapchat. Are you gonna post
Yes,
it to other social medias
yeah.
as well?
I did my first one at the Barnes and Noble bookstore, signing the book, and I posted it to
Oh.
my Instagram, so you can see what it looks like.
Oh. And so
Um,
can
so here's
you oh, go ahead.
here's here's where it ties into the whole Mother's Day theme. As I left, I bought the pair, and I went to the Barnes and Noble and used them and started figuring it out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking in my head, oh my gosh, my kids are going to be so jealous when I come home with these because they're big chatters.
Yeah.
Well, 4 of the 5 are. And so because of the expense of them, it occurred to me, I thought, oh, I should probably buy them for the kids. And I went, oh my gosh, that'd be so expensive. So as I'm traveling around, you know how when you parents, you travel and, gifts is not my love language. So I have a difficult time picking out souvenirs and stuff to bring to my kids. And so as I was leaving the Barnes & Noble, I just made the decision, I'm going to buy 4 pair of these little Snapchat spectacles and mail them to my kids. This is your gift. This is your souvenir from my big road trip. Because I'm not home for 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I just bit the bullet and said, I'll just figure it out later. But I'm going to earn like big time mom points.
Oh, I bet you will.
So I'm going to go to the post office today and send a package home I'm going to mail them all into one package to one kid and say, here, disperse them from here.
Oh, wow.
But
that's great.
So I'm loving this idea of using these little spectacles to be able to connect with my readers and with my friends and family and have fun.
Look into those. And they sell them at Barnes & Noble?
No, it was just in the little shopping center.
Kiosk.
There was a kiosk.
I bet
and they
Amazon
were only
sells
available here in California at certain locations because they're kind of testing them out, I guess.
Oh, gotcha.
You can order them online, but there's like a 1-month backlog.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm like the latest, and I'm feeling very latest and greatest and on top of technology for the first time in my life.
Yeah. You're on top of it. You're on it. That's awesome.
I don't know if this will ever happen again because usually I'm not big. You know how there's technology people that are on the cutting edge, and then there's people that wait and see and then kind of adopt new technology, and then there's still people that still have flip phones.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm usually in the wait and see category.
Oh, yeah.
New technology comes out and it's like, okay, it probably has glitches, so we'll let everybody else work those out and I'll get version 3 or 4,
Yeah.
In this case, I'm on the cutting edge.
You are.
So my kids are going to be proud of me, and they're going to be ecstatic that they're going to be also on the cutting edge. So I'm feeling like the best mom ever.
That's great.
Right
That's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on, Corinne. It's been a pleasure again.
Thank you so much. And get some sunshine out in California, and maybe we'll see you in Nashville.
Yes, that's on leg 2 when that's going to happen. So late July, something like that.
Yeah.
Late June or July.
Wow, I am astonished at what Anna has accomplished given her hardships in life. She inspires me, and I hope that she has inspired you to keep going in spite of difficulties in your relationship with your mom or your daughter. This was such a great episode, and I hope that you will share it with your friends and share it with your mom. If you missed something that you wanted to jot down from this episode, no worries, because all of the information from this show will be in the show notes at CorineSandifer.com. Please consider supporting Rising Stories podcast by purchasing books and products mentioned on the show with the link provided in the show notes. We are empowering each other as women to press on, to lean in, and to keep rising. Thanks for listening. Music is by Ben Sound, and this podcast has been sponsored by Brentwood Life Coach.